Whatever. It's red right now. There we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the District of Browndale School Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Verification of public notice. Meeting has been publicly noticed. Verification of a quorum. We have 6 of our board members in attendance this evening. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion made. Do we have a second?
Whoever.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, Lynn. Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Hallmeyer seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and/or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. In the reading of our mission and vision statement, our mission is through the lens of excellence, equity, and engagement. We are dedicated to empowering every student with the essential skills to build a foundation for lifelong learning. And our vision is to provide a rigorous education that empowers our students to confidently navigate in our ever-changing world. All right, let's go on to our next item, item number 2A, Business Office Report. Mr. Klimick.
Good evening, members of the board. Very brief comment in my business office update this evening. First of all, just updating you on where we are with our contracts, our teaching contracts, which is, were released a few weeks ago. I actually have an update from what was provided on board docs earlier. This is hot off the press from this afternoon. Right now, we have 98 out of 124 teachers that have signed, which is 79%. The 3 buildings, elementary is at 74%, and this includes new hires as well. Anybody that positions would have filled. 74% at the elementary school, 81 at the middle school, and 78 at the high school. And a reminder that this Sunday is the deadline, June 15th. So on Monday, we'll know if folks have decided not to return. Otherwise, we'll hoping that the rest of them will fill it between now and then. And just reminding you of our current openings that we have in the district. We have our 4K classroom, 1 elementary sped teacher, elementary ELL, not on the teaching list, but we also have the elementary school psychologist, middle school music, middle school math support teacher, the high school counselor, high school science teacher, and gifted and talented. Those are our open positions at this point. Any questions on the contracts for hiring update of where we are?
I'll say, you know what? I think we're ahead of where we were last year.
I do feel like it. We don't have as many openings right now. On that, but we are, and I think the teacher that responded, I did send out an email this weekend, and that we had a big jump in the last couple of days, just reminding people that Sunday is the deadline. I think, and in fairness to some staff, I think some of them wait until the school year's over, and now that which was today, tomorrow is the last day for teachers, and now they can kind of take a breath and start thinking about next year.
Have we sent something out? I mean, even though we don't need to, have we sent out another reminder to those individuals that have not submitted?
Yeah, I sent that. I went out Monday morning, and then we had probably 12 or 14 people sign in the last couple of days, and I'll do another one before the weekend is over, just to.
All right. And we've got in the open positions that we do have, we currently already have individuals in place with interviews, and we're interviewing already, or?
Some of them, they're all been posted, and we have applicants, and they're in various stages of the hiring process. Notice of assignment. I did not update this today, but we as of Sunday, we had 20 out of 65% were completed, and these of course are non salaried individuals that include custodians, support staff, administrative assistants, all of that. But those assignments are due on June 20th, which is next month. And that's the notice of assignment piece. Our district audit dates were set. I hadn't shared this with you previously, but actually our audit will be here next Monday and Tuesday for the preliminary audit. And this is our new audit firm, CLA. And then the final audit will be conducted August 25th through 29th.
With CLA, who is the chief person that will be working with?
Our main contact is Tori Nelson.
Tori, okay.
And so she'll be here with her team on Monday. And we're already, obviously our team is working through pulling records, and we've obviously submitted some things already, and we're getting ready for the data pulls for that.
All right, another organization I work with, they use Clifton Larson and Associates. So yeah, I guess we're good.
All right, and then finally, I did want to update you. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the workers' compensation situation that we were non-renewed by our current carrier. Gallagher did make multiple attempts at trying to find a possible suitor for us in the marketplace. They have been unsuccessful. I don't believe they will have, I don't think anything will change between now and next Tuesday or in 2 weeks when you will get all of the insurance renewals. So we will be in the state pool next year. At least next year, probably for another year until the mod rate drops. But we were accepted by the state pool, which they unfortunately have another district that was turned down from the state pool. So I'll take it.
So what exactly does that mean for us from a cost standpoint?
I don't know yet. I will learn that over the next few days to figure out what that cost is like. It is not going to be cheap, but I don't know how much it'll vary from what we had paid, over the last several years. Our premium last year was about $160,000. They will be, higher than that, I am sure, but to what extent, I don't know. And there might be some prepayment part that we'll have to pay some money up front to kind of prepare for what potential loss may occur. As I did say, though, our trend had been more positive in this particular school year. So, but the mod rate is calculated over a several year period, and we did have a really bad claim year in 23-24. So and that again will be part of the discussions going forward. I think that the district will just need to do to make sure that we are, focusing on safety, focusing on, from our staff, from not just what we do, but what we do to make sure that the district is safe and that we minimize the chance of injuries and accidents, and making sure that we minimize the activities that could cause accidents.
So is the reason why we had a private company before because they tend to be cheaper?
Well, you really should have a private company. The only reason you're in state pool is because no one will take you. You don't get it. And usually I believe what happens, and I from what I've heard, because obviously I've never been in this situation either, is that you usually do get assigned, you may get assigned a carrier through the pool that will actually service the account, but will provide no additional support or anything to kind of put you with someone. So that's what happens. But they set the billing and the cost for them. So it is significantly higher than just going through the market. And again, from what I'm hearing from our insurance consultants, until that mod rate drops significantly, this may be a situation that we'll be in for, like I said, it probably won't be 1 year, it might be 2 years. If we can get it down fast enough, then we might see have a better chance going back to the private sector.
So when folks are being accepted, is there a possibility to move back in the other direction or go to a private company?
What were you?
No, so, yeah, maybe I'm not understanding correctly. Now we're into this general pool.
Right.
Right? Is there an opportunity to move back into if there's a vendor who is willing to?
I don't know that'll happen. It won't happen probably at this point. A year from now, we'll have an adjusted mod rate based on what and if it dropped, maybe you'll get traction with some other company. On the other hand, it might take a year or two to get through that point where we're back down to a more reasonable level, and that would garner more interest. And again, some of it is bad luck, some of it is probably we can improve.
Self-inflicted.
Some is self-inflicted, some of it we can improve on, but again, some of it are things that you wouldn't expect to happen when you have people, injuring themselves during like a basketball game or something, but that's the, kind of the price. So we're limiting those activities. We are being more conscious of certain things. We'll try to be more proactive, next winter when the bad weather hits and you're dealing with ice and snow. But it will take some time to get out of this current situation.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Fleming in relationship to this? I mean, the insurance piece is kind of troubling or whatever stuff, because there are a lot of these things or whatever have you, we probably could have, like I said before, self-inflicted. And some of them are self-inflicted or whatever. And the analogy is just like your auto insurance. Get a speeding ticket, have an accident or two, regardless whether you've been with them for 20 years, what are they gonna do? They're gonna drop you, and then you gotta turn around and try to either find a high price person, or like I said, like for this instance right here, the state. Now we gotta fall up under that insurance or whatever, which is always gonna be a heck of a lot more than from the private. So, we just, again, like Kevin said, it's probably gonna take us 2 years to dig up out of this or whatever, but I think what this does is a teachable moment for us when we start to talk about compliance and safety and some of these other different things or whatever stuff. So it may be one of the things, Dr. Cotton, that we really start to look at from a maintenance standpoint and stuff like that to ensure that, you know, that we're definitely being safe on some of these different things or whatever, and or do some trainings or something. All right, Kevin, let's go on to our next item if you're done with A.
That's it.
All right, item B, approval of new hires.
This is Ms. Jackson.
Hi. Good evening, board. I am reporting today, new hires for 25-27. That is a 2-year contract. Well, for Quentin Paul, for the district as the Director of Business Services, starting 7/1/2025, replacing Mr. Kevin Fleming. Mr. Paul is in attendance today.
Oh, would you stand up, please, sir? Introduce yourself.
Hi, board. My name is Quentin Paul. I'm very excited to be here tonight and in the future for the next 2 years at the least.
All right, way to start off with a good job.
Hey.
All right. I guess we'll end up taking that. All right, with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Quentin Paul as the Director of Business Services for the 25-27 school year.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Making. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Only thing I gotta say is I talked to Mr. Paul yesterday and I was like, hey, I heard great things or whatever. The board is expecting great things and we know we've got a lot of work to do and we got some big shoes to fill. But we're feeling confident in what's getting ready to happen. And like I always tell them, this is family business now. So let's get to it. All right. So with that being said, all in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously. 6-0. So for at least the next 2 years, we have our new business manager and welcome. Thank you very much. All right.
All right, move forward with resignation. DeShandria Baggett, elementary school, special education teacher. Resignation submitted on June 3rd, 2025. Last day of employment, June 11th of 2025.
All right, hold on. All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the resignation of DeShandria Baggett as an elementary school special education teacher effective June 11th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Tallmore. Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? We'd like to thank Ms. Baggett for her years of service to the district and we wish her well. And once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right. All in favor, raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? You can see that motion carries 6-0. Next.
All right, next resignation from Diana Pena Acosta from the elementary school, position as a school psychologist, submitted on June 6th, 2025. Last day of employment will be June 11th of 2025.
June 11th or June 30th?
Should be June 30th.
It should be June 30th.
Your contract goes through June 30th.
My apologies, it will be June 30th of 2025.
All right, thank you very much. All right, motion has been made. I'm so sorry. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I would like to motion to approve the resignation of Diana Pena Acosta as an elementary school psychologist effective June 30, 2025.
All right, thank you much, Ms. Hallmark. Motion made, second.
Second.
All right, Ms. Robinson, seconded. Any discussion? Again, we wish her well, Mr. Costa well, in her future endeavors, and once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Robinson, say. All right, none opposed, motion carries unanimously 6-0. Ms. Jackson?
All right, the next resignation, pending receipt of liquidated damages for Jason Love, elementary school assistant principal, submitted on June 9th, 2025. Last day of employment is June 30th of 2025.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to motion to approve the resignation of Jason Love as elementary school assistant principal effective June 30, 2025, pending receipt of liquidated damages.
Okay, well, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ash. The motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? We wish Mr. Love much success in future endeavors, and once a Falcon, always a Falcon. That being said, all in favor, raise hand and/or aye. Any opposed? Any see none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. All right, let's go on to our next item is the potential approval of the transportation contract.
All right, we are not going to approve the transportation contract tonight, just so you know, but we're gonna have some background information to kind of tell you where we are. We're still working on a few details, and Nate Hamilton is on the call. Nate is our regional manager for Right Way, who has been oversees us and many other districts, and I'm working very closely with him on the negotiating piece. And I'll explain why we'll hold off till 2 weeks from now, just as we go through them. So just a little bit of background as a reminder. We've been with Right Way for quite a while. In 2022, the board, I was coming out of COVID, we decided to do a 3-year extension with Right Way, just knowing that it was challenging for all transportation companies and we wanted to continue our partnership. So that contract ends at the end of June for 2025. And then earlier this year, we had a conversation with the board to decide what do we want to do. Do we want to continue that partnership? Do we want to go out to RFP? I will say that from the reality is that our pricing over the years with Right Way through the process that we've gone through is extremely competitive compared to other North Shore districts. And so one of the advantages of doing the extension is that we don't run the risk of dropping the relationship and then having multiple vendors come in all with much higher rates than what we were expecting and then seeing an increase no matter what we do. So we wanted to work with Right Way. And I've said they've been a very good partner for us this year. Certainly, as an example, all of the things with the extended day and having extra buses in the last minute to help support our high school students that were staying later in the day. They were great in bringing that service on for us, which was unanticipated at the start of the year. So Nate and Jeremy and the group at the terminal have been great. So we wanted to explore an extension with them. And so that's where we are tonight. So we've had discussions over the course of the spring, and obviously we're coming down to the final days here. So I wanted to make sure that we were able to get this completed. So I'll just do a couple of highlights. And then if you have any questions, either I or Nate will be able to chime in here to answer any questions that you might have. So the contract is very similar to the language that was in the extension from the 22-25 period of time. One thing that we are doing is we are continuing our calculation of CPI over a 3-month period, which is October, November, December of the previous year. And as part of the process, we are looking at a CPI plus 2% increase in the first year of the contract for next year, 25-26, another CPI plus 2%, followed by a CPI 1%, and then the final 2 years would be CPI flat, so CPI plus 0. So that's the way of distributing the increases over the next 5 years. So for this current year, our current CPI for October, November, December of 2024 was 2.73%. So we'd be looking at a 4.73% rate increase for 25-26. We did talk about the other points that I'll bring up is that we did talk about required insurance coverage. We are allowing them to make a change, which is happening in other districts. It's the excess auto and liability coverage, which is an additional $5 million. They are keeping $5 million in both, which is higher than the state law requires $1 million, but they're still exceeding that. That cost is getting prohibitive. And they also have some significant investments in buses and I think that are going to come up with some changes down the road. And so they're trying to plan for that and not impact rates. So we did agree to that part. They did remain with the billable days at 170, which is where our contract is, which just means that as long as we have 170 days and we're paying at a daily rate, if we fall below that, the first 10 days would be paid at 70% of the daily rate. And then days in addition to that would be 55% of the daily rate. Again, basically adding in the world of hopefully not a repeat of a pandemic, but a situation where you'd be closed for a significant amount of time. Right now, the calendar has over 170 days, and even with snow days, we do not anticipate not hitting that mark as it is. But as an important note of that discussion is that those reduced rates are for when the district is the cause of the interruption in service. If Right Way, and they've been very good this year. We had very minimal disruptions at the beginning of the year where they were down a driver and we would have to merge routes and that. When that does happen though, obviously incentive for them to have drivers, they will not charge us for those routes those days. So if we have a day where we go from 8 to 7 because of the driver shortage and 2 routes are combined, then that day will be charged for 7 routes instead of 8. But those are the days that Right Way is responsible for staffing. And then our the fuel surcharge adjustment. We have always had a fuel surcharge with Right Way. It's changed over the last several contracts. Basically, we set a threshold for fuel price, and then any variance of a certain amount reflects an additional amount that's tacked on to every route over the course of the day. So we are changing the formula slightly so that right now it's currently in the current version, every 5 cents over $2.50 a gallon will be a 50-cent. It's a 50-cent charge. It will now be a 31-cent charge for every 5 cents over $3 a gallon. So we're raising the ceiling a little bit. The reality is, as I joked, it's like the only time that fuel has dropped below the $2.50 was when we weren't busing any. It was the middle of the pandemic and gas was $1.50. That hasn't happened since. So we seem to be in that $3 range, and this just kind of locks in that a little bit better for us. That's been a hard part to judge and budget for because it has fluctuated. It wasn't that long ago in the time of high inflation where you were seeing gas at $4.50 a gallon, and so then we're seeing $13 or $14 a day per route add-ons, and it kind of messes up your budgeting a little bit. This will bring in a little bit more consistency for that pricing. And then there's a separate calculation for when they use propane buses. It's a similar formula based on similar miles per gallon. Now, the one other part that I just wanted to, so I guess let me ask if there are any questions on any of those pieces so far. And if Nate, if you want to unmute, if you have anything you want to add as part of that conversation, feel free.
Tell him he's muted or something.
Well, we're not hearing you right now. Maybe let's see what's going on.
All right.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go. Yeah,
I've
thank
been
you.
having microphone issues. I apologize. No, I think you summarized it well. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, I don't know if anybody had any questions for Nate or anything that we talked about on this part of the contract.
Answer more questions last night.
Okay. So the one other piece and why we're delaying it 2 weeks is that so every year at this time we have to file a report with DPI, the transportation. And so DPI provides us information on the number of students that actually ride the bus. And they do 3 weeks of attendance, usually in October, February, and May. And a student has to ride the bus one of those periods, and then they're counted. And then DPI, there's 2 parts to this. One is that DPI will, based on the numbers that I put in, and they provide us a certain dollar amount per student. And the dollar amounts vary depending on the distance from home to school. As small as we are, we only hit 2 of the categories. We're either under 2 miles or 2 to 5 miles. We don't transport anybody farther than that. So I have to file that report by the end of this week, which again is part of our transportation aid for next year. What we discovered this year, and again, understanding how many kids are on the bus is challenging because you route for everybody that could be on the bus is on the bus, but the reality is not everybody rides every day, or some people don't ride at all, and so we kind of work through that. But the numbers that we will report this year are significantly lower than they were last year, about 150, 160 kids less. So that will impact aid. It's not that transportation aid is huge. I think this year we had $16,000. I'm guessing this will be somewhere in the $12,000 to $13,000 range. So it's not a ton of money. But it did bring into question whether or not 8 routes, which is what we do. We do 2 double routes of 8 every day, whether 8 routes is the right number or whether we could talk about going down to 7. And the contract is based on, and the pricing is based on 8 routes every day. So, and there were periods of time when, after the pandemic, when we couldn't find drivers, where we were merging for quite a period of time and we had 7 routes going Again, I don't know, the kids change every year, so where they live and that. So it isn't just the numbers of students, but it's also where are they? How many stops between, from their house to school, and what does that path look like? One of our challenges in the district is due to, because we run double routes, which is incredibly cost effective. The difference between Route 1 and Route 2 is it's $25 for the second run. To do 16 buses and run everybody at the same time would be double, would be astronomical. We wouldn't want to do that. So the challenge is the window that we have in between the two school start times. Right now it's 35 minutes. And so we're limited as to how long the bus can be running to pick up kids in the morning. It's got to be within 30 minutes. Otherwise, we're at risk of running late. So we have that kind of we're kind of hamstrung by that number right now. But what I did ask Nate to do, and it's not guaranteed yet, but we're gonna talk through this over the next couple of weeks. But because I'd like to feel better about whether 7 or 8 should be the starting point, we're gonna try to work on something where we have some options from the start of next school year. I've also asked, and I've talked to the folks at the terminal, that they're gonna run attendance reports more frequently at the beginning of the school year next year, October, November, December kind of thing, to get a better sense early on as to what is the attendance like. It may also cause for the board and the district to institute a policy where if you're not on the bus on certain dates, if it's apparent that you're not riding the bus, we may deroute you. And then you're not able to get on the bus on your own, because the reality is that we ask parents at registration, do you want transportation? Do you not want transportation? And that's how we route. Do we ever follow up? No. So if a student never goes on the bus again or never rides the bus, we don't know. So I think in our effort to be a little more cost conscious, we're going to try to see and be a little more aware of what the ridership is like, and trying to make sure that they can run and route the buses as efficiently as possible. Because the reality is that, running a half empty bus or a bus with 20 kids on it doesn't make sense for them, doesn't make sense for us. And it's not a good long-term use of resources. So the thought is that we're going to do an analysis, try to have a better sense next year. So whether based on the numbers at the end of August, we do 8 or 7, that'll be a decision for the administration and the fall to come to a decision with, decide how to budget that and how to plan for it. But then do some kind of analysis early on to see what does that look like. Are we at the right number? Do we need to increase? Do we need to decrease? You usually err on the side of more, because you don't want to have kids standing, you don't want to have overcrowded buses or have kids that can't get home because we don't have enough buses running. So we have to figure out a little bit of how that will work.
So Nate is gonna get us an analysis on attendance in October, so after third count Friday, of course. So we'll be looking at something in October, and then
October, they'll run some reports in October. I'd also look at November and see what that looks like. And just start to get a sense of where are we, and they can certainly do an analysis of where those routes are. Again, you can't even base that on what this year is, because different kids can live in different spots and the routes will change. So it really does depend on what students that we have next year, where they're located, and who is asking for transportation. The reason I bring this up is that you may then down the road, so you'll have next year to kind of do an analysis, and it may be, you may say, you know what? The numbers support 7 buses, but we can't do it with where they're located, and we just can't get there fast enough, and there'd be too many chances of buses being late. And I think the board has to have a conversation as to whether or not, perhaps the following school year, 26-27 school year, that you look at widening the time difference between the two schools to make it to a certain point where you'd be more comfortable, where you could run 7 buses, if that's what makes sense, if that's where the numbers are. If our enrollment is at a point where we don't see it growing substantially, maybe that makes sense, but it would give you some time to have that analysis, see if that's something like that. I wouldn't recommend doing it next school year, but you may want to talk about it.
I have a question. Why is it that we have the difference in the school times starts anyway?
Because otherwise you'd have to run 16 buses, right? Because you'd have to do, elementary school kid, you do all the middle high school kids and they go all over the village, and then they drop off middle high school, then they go back out and do the elementary.
But what I'm saying is that if you had 7 buses that go to certain areas and you're picking up, I mean, because I know.
babies in there with older kids. You don't want the babies on there with the older kids.
Well,
Would you want your K five on there with a senior?
In some instances, I mean, I rode the bus in the south, so they did that all the time, but, you know.
She didn't say that now. Come on now.
But I'm just thinking about, I know family members who they may have kids in the elementary school and they have some in the middle school or in the high school. And it's always a problem with the, who's gonna pick up the kids, who's gonna do this? And that ends up being a problem too. Whereas the bigger kids usually take care of the little kids, and everybody doesn't have a big sister or brother, but I'm just saying, it just seems like to me, if you have them picking up kids, you have, I mean, we're four square miles,
Yeah.
you know, and you have the kids being picked up on one side of town, the other side of town, north, west, east.
Right.
whatever.
But we still got schools starting at different times.
That's what I'm saying, but
Most districts
Wow.
do have schools starting.
I know, but I was just saying, you know, it just seems like to me it would be less of an issue if you had people based on where they live, those were the ones that moved together.
Again, it would be mixing
But-
grade levels, you know, you would have kindergartners and seniors on buses together. And then you wouldn't necessarily need 16 buses, maybe with numbers you'd need 10 or 11, but then you're talking about more staff for right way. And again, each additional bus you do is a full
25
rate, whereas having them go
25
do
bucks.
2 routes is much cheaper. So that's where, again, from a financial standpoint, you're not gonna. So, I think I'm just trying to provide, it's an option that you guys will talk about a year from now, probably, or before that. But just understanding that, you know, as we see what our student population is like, if we are declining, you know, just making sure that it's cost effective. Because running empty buses doesn't do anything for us as a district, doesn't serve the kids at all. And those resources could be applied in different places. So I'm just trying to kind of set the stage for you to think about that as we go forward. But I think the biggest part will be that we're just gonna discuss to see what our options are for next year, to see if we have a possibility of working through what this might look like for that first year. And then after that, it'll be the additional reporting and that the board and the administration can really look at it and decide going forward what the correct number of routes will be. And I will qualify, this is just regular education. Special education is very transient and it changes, so there's no additional issue for them adding or removing a bus. But we do, when I started here, we had 8 regular routes, 2 special education routes during the day. We had 2 noon routes. Now we have 2.5 noon routes. We have 3 special education buses. We have almost 50 students that are being transported on a daily basis for special ed. 1's a big bus, 2 small buses. So I mean, all those costs are going up and the number of routes are increasing. So anything we can do to kind of peel back a little bit would be helpful budgetary.
Yeah, and I give you a hard time, Director Rankin, but I was the same way, but we live much further away from school down south than what we have these 4 square miles. So with us being so compact, I think I can see your argument with older students, with the younger students, but just in general, if I have a younger student and I don't have an older student, I would be a bit apprehensive about my younger student riding with the high schoolers. So.
So Nate, is there anything you wanted to add to that conversation, any other insight?
No, I think that sums up everything that we've discussed, and we just appreciate the partnership. As Kevin said, I did look it up before the call. We've been working with the Brown Deer School District for 15 years, so we appreciate the continued partnership.
Nate, you give us 10% discount right now, we'll say yes.
Yeah.
He gave it a shot.
So then we're just gonna have a couple more conversations, work through a few details, and I'll have a final draft for you in 2 weeks for you to approve.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
All right. Let's go on to item number E, participation in that CEP program.
Yes, and I'll have a guest speaker this evening because Mr. Paul is from Cudahy, and Cudahy is a participant in the CEP program and was this year. So if you have other questions I warned him that I might ask him this, and you're welcome to ask some questions. So, we did talk about this a few weeks ago, that we were identified as part of the CEP program, which is the community eligibility provision. Allows school districts to provide free meals to all students regardless of income. It does not require them to go through any kind of application or eligibility process. The threshold is determined by the number of students who qualify through direct certification. So we know that number, but we, obviously other families may decide not to apply or go through that process, even though they might otherwise qualify. So I did share in the memo where we are at. And again, this is not our free and reduced number. This is our direct certification number. Our free and reduced is a little higher, but we are at just over 54% at the elementary school, just 47.5% at the middle high school. So we're at 50.49% across the district. So we would be eligible for district-wide CEP. So just a couple of and I also shared with you several other documents that came from DPI, kind of the programs in a nutshell. Shared with you the consideration. There was a letter from DPI just to remind you of what things to think about. And then I shared also the number of the school districts that are currently participating in the program this year. So the first part is that it is not a cost neutral program. It does, because of the way that they calculate the free rate reimbursement. They give you a calculator to kind of estimate what it will look like for you. And it does vary. If the program were to take off and you were to have a huge increase in the number of students who are participating, these numbers the deficit would be lessened and possibly turn into a surplus kind of piece. But I like to be cautious and never decide. So this does have a 3% increase as part of the calculation as to additional students that would be participating. But we are anticipating, because you are eliminating the federal reimbursement rate changes slightly and you eliminate any sales. So we are looking at about a $2,100 a month or about $21,000 a year reduction in income through this program. There's a separate reduction on the breakfast side, but currently, as part of our attempt to use down our fund balance, we are currently paying for breakfast for all students. So there is that piece right now that we do. So that revenue loss, which I point out, is about $1,600 a month, but that's currently happening. So it's not really an addition. I mention that only because if we needed to at some point, we could start charging right now for breakfast, and you'd get an additional $16,000 a year in revenue were we to do that. But once you're in the CEP program, you can't. So just as a reminder that once you're doing it, that isn't an option anymore. And again, increased participation would potentially have those numbers be less.
So question, Kev,
Yeah.
because I know we spend a lot of money in relationship to having those alternatives and stuff for kids for the lunch stuff, like the sandwich thing and all the rest of this different stuff. So would that be included, or would that still have to be one of those ones where kids would have to pay extra if they use the sandwich thing?
Those are all reimbursable meals. The hot sandwich area, the restaurant rotation, those are all qualified as meals. So all the pieces of it. So all those options would be eligible. The only thing that would not be would be the a la carte item, which would include, some of the desserts, the sodas, the chips, things like that don't count. But whether it's the slice of pizza or the burger or chicken sandwich, the toasted sandwich, the restaurant rotation meal is, all of those count as reimbursable. It will be correct. So again, and right now we're still calculating, and you'll find out in a few months what the final balance is for our food service. But we probably are very close to $750,000. So it's not really a financial consideration. Obviously, you can lose $1,000 a year for quite a few years before you have to, worry about that again. But that's in there.
But once we're in there, we're locked in for 4 years and we can't get out?
I have to confirm.
Did I read that correctly? Because I thought it almost seemed as though if we did it, then we couldn't get out.
I have to verify it, whether you could or not. I will say this, so that's because one of the challenges is, and I pointed out, is that if for some reason we did get out, that will be a pain for as a transition from both the families and as well from staff and managing the program, because it was quite the challenge when we went 2 years with all meals free during COVID, and then that fall we came back to being charged, and then halfway through even though we communicated it, shared it out, halfway through the school year, you know, people were complaining about balances. Because one of the things that to remember is that the board policy is that we don't turn away kids for reimbursable meals. So if a student comes, we don't, you know, if a student doesn't have any money on their account, but they come and order and they get a reimbursable meal, we let them have it, and their account is charged if they are not identified as economically disadvantaged, they're charged $2.50 at the elementary school or $3 at the middle or high school. And those balances will grow. We don't stop that from happening. We don't do the cheese sandwich or the peanut butter and jelly thing, which was what some districts have done. I think we threw that idea out several years ago. You know, the stigma that's related to that, it's obviously then, you know, kids that it has no money in their account. Have the hand, but cheese, everybody's eating burgers. Yeah, so we've avoided that, but it has created problems, and this is a situation that does come up every year at the end of the school year, because one of the things we have to do as a finance department is when seniors, especially seniors that don't have siblings in the district, come up for graduation, it's our last chance to, you know, get at the funds that are owed to us. Because again, these are meals that they otherwise should have paid for that, you know, again, we don't turn people away. So that would eliminate that part of that problem. If you go CEP, you know, then at least the daily meal purchases would not build up. We would, and we are able, and we do turn off the ability to purchase a la carte items when students hit a negative $25. That's obviously a little more palatable to say you can't have a soda rather than you can't have a sandwich. So, so that we currently do, CEP would eliminate that. The thing we do talk about too is then potential changes in federal funding. I don't think anybody can tell you what's going to happen over the next year as to whether or not this program survives, doesn't survive, if the eligibility changes. Again, I think the worst thing, and you can't predict this, but if you knew in a year that you'd have to go back to paid, I certainly would. I don't know that it'd be worth the 1 year free because it would be a big transition back and forth. Because the reality is that for families who apply, they get these things for free, whether it's through direct certification or an application process. The families that pay are the ones that are, you know, determined to be not economically disadvantaged. So we do provide the free food for the families that need it. The question is what's going to happen over the next year if this program were to change or something we're not eligible because our price or our percentage of students isn't high enough, or what if the reimbursement rate changes and then it becomes much more costly? So just something to think about. And then just deciding whether or not it's a good fit in Brown Deer in general. Again, in general, we have a lot of larger cities, a lot of rural areas are participants. The two that are suburban districts that we have, Cudahy being one, and West Dallas, which is a partial sponsor, are a partial participant. Are the two that are in our area, basically outside of like big cities. Largest right next door.
What does partial participant mean?
Certain schools would be, so they're not district wide. So they have a group of schools that qualify. So if you're not, we only have the two schools and our percentage is high enough that we can do both. And obviously you wouldn't want to do one if you couldn't, you know, you wouldn't do one purposefully, you'd try to do both. But there are other districts where maybe certain schools have a higher percentage of low income students, so they qualify, but other schools.
Like Tulsa, they have like, I think.
West Dallas,
I'm sorry.
right? So they had a list, so you saw it said grouping, and so there was a list of 6 or 7 schools, I think, whereas Cudahy was district wide. Yeah.
So Kevin, this doesn't change what the cafeteria is able to serve, so the food in itself won't change?
The only issue would be from a funding standpoint, and that's again not a primary concern, it's just that, because some districts, if you don't have a high enough fund balance and you're operating at a loss, and certainly if you're at a lower percentage, that's part of the calculation piece. So if you had more paid meals that you were losing the income on, you'd see that deficit grow faster. And then it comes into, do you have the money to buy the same quality of food items? You know, like you have to choose between tiers of chicken patties and things like that. But that that we're not really looking at it from a financial standpoint. We have the money to go forward to keep everything exactly the same. It doesn't change the nutrition requirements or anything about the program. It is basically just a funding.
So,
Other kinds of families are.
right, so the food doesn't change, cause Ms. Robinson, she asked about the I think it was chicken nuggets, she called them chicken something else.
The nuggets.
Yeah, and everything else like that. So Kevin, with this whole thing or whatever, you're just giving us this info right now. We're not gonna vote on anything. You're
I want-
gonna be able to come back to us with any other information or whatever, or are we gonna have Quentin come back and be able to tell us something else?
Well, you have to decide by June 30th, so you have time. We
Next
meet in
board
2
meeting.
weeks, so all you have to do is say yes, and then we just let DPI know that we're entering the program. I don't know if Quentin wants to share any other thoughts on it. I didn't want to, obviously, this will impact how they operate the program, and what they do going forward. I will say too, and maybe he can address this too, is that one of the challenges, which we do talk about as well, is identifying other low-income families that don't qualify through direct certification. So the natural tendency, which we saw during COVID, was, when it's all free, people aren't bothering to fill out the applications. They're not going through that process. We still, as a district, have a responsibility to figure out who would otherwise qualify. And and that's part of the letter that they explain there are some certain ways you can do that. Obviously, it does impact whether or not a family would automatically qualify for waiving fees, any of the school fees or fees that we charge. And we do have to report accurately because it can impact our funding, whatever our true free and reduced rate is, because it's not going to be based on just on the direct certification. So I don't know if, and I don't want to put them on the spot, but I don't know if you have any knowledge on that. So I'll summarize that. Yeah. But I don't, what's the experience like to trying to get that additional information from families? Did you guys, or I don't know.
It was more because there are people that just wouldn't do it because they didn't have to.
So talk about the reporting aspects of this. How often do you have to report, collecting the data, reporting the data, and that sort of thing? Is that gonna put a little bit more work on somebody's plate? Because we're doing and have a different system that we're working with. If we were to decide to move to this program.
I think your technology department would have to do some adjusting with the system and whatnot. Beyond that, the reporting's very much similar to if you don't have the CDP program.
From a claiming standpoint, it's easier because you're not tracking the different, because we track free, reduced, and paid meals separately. We just track the one. But there are some other deadlines I do have, because it is part of that reporting of what the free and reduced number is for your district. So there is that piece, which is a little different. But I think from a claiming standpoint, the number of meals, it's really it's not much different than fresh now.
Okay, we got this in a nutshell. All right, that's cool part and Daniel. Can you give us a pros and cons for our district? Could you put something together, pros and cons for our district relationship to this?
Well, I think I thought I was kind of doing that with my bullet points and talking about the fact that obviously you'll have less program revenue, so it is gonna, it will over time eat up the fund balance. Nothing, I mean, unless something changes, if you were to have some huge expense that you had to do where suddenly we were operating where you only had $50,000 in fund balance at some point, you'd have to be aware of it, because then that program would start to eat up your funding, and Fund 50 cannot have a negative balance. So if Fund 50 ever drops below zero, that has to be funded out of the fund. You have to transfer money. So you don't want Fund 50 to get that low. Again, I don't think that's an immediate thing, as long as there isn't any major expense that comes out of it, that you're spending several $100,000 or multiple times where you have to replace, really expensive equipment. I don't think that would be the case. You just bought 7 ovens, you just remodeled the North Commons. The other 2 kitchens were remodeled in 2019. So everything is relatively new. We're talking about replacing a freezer yet downstairs, which is probably the oldest thing, part of food service. So it's probably not going to happen, but I never say never. So you have to be aware of it, just so no one's surprised. And then you do have the challenge with identifying other students and what the work is involved with that. It would eliminate those family balances. I still don't know. I'm very cautious about what the federal government's doing right now, and I have no idea this is not under the education department. This is under, I think, the USDA, or under the agriculture department is where all of the food service stuff goes. So that one isn't quite under fire like the ed department is. So whether any funding touches or whether they change it, we are a country that has $30-some trillion in debt. So at some point, someone's going to figure out to not do something. And what that happens to be, I don't know, and whether it affects this program. Again, I would just be cautious, and hopefully if you decide to do it, you can do it for the full 4 years and you have some longevity in there and it's effective and it does what it's supposed to do. I just would hate to switch back in short order. That would be
Right.
the challenge.
Now, with this was summer, because I'm looking at this summer food service program. Now, would this also cover summer food as well too?
We're already
I know we do the oversight, but I'm saying would this supersede that?
No, so this just covers the school year. We're already a community, we already have CEP kind of sort of for summer, where we're an open site for the community, that anybody that under 18 that comes in and gets lunch can get lunch.
What's the percentage of our students that presently gets free or reduced lunch?
50%.
We're about 65% in total, and so there's about 15% that come in through the application process. The direct cert numbers, those are the ones as of April 1st, I'm probably share with you. So those are the ones that are qualified to direct cert.
Would it be that we have everybody be paid until those applications are complete so that it'll kind of help families move along?
But that changes every year. I mean, and you have to re-up basically if things change. So if you do an application, you get a 30 school day window at the start of the school year. And then if you don't reapply and a letter goes out and if you don't respond to it, you don't do anything, then there's a date that you become non-economically disadvantaged and start getting children's free. So, and again, our student population changes. So regularly there's people coming and going every week, basically. So there's always applications that are outstanding because, if they come in and they feel like they might qualify, they have to fill out the
That's the difficult part with this, because I get that things could change. I get that things could be different or difficult if we have to go back. But I have a hard time with telling families, hey, we could get free food, but because we don't know what this other stuff gonna do, we just gonna let y'all keep paying. That's also a difficult thing to say to the community.
Well, if I may, I'm gonna say this I'm not gonna say this directly to the service. I will say this as a citizen of the United States of America. I also think though that in the reality of where we are financially, that we always talk about people paying their fair share and things like that. It's like, should we be providing things for people that could otherwise afford it? I don't know. I mean, that's a philosophical piece to it that we can't do everything. We can't provide everything to everyone. And so whether or not that makes sense, yes, you can do it, absolutely. But is that the right decision? That across the board, because obviously there's a lot of things that people would like to have for free. Can we afford to do it long term as a country? Because that was part of offering the free food to everyone for 2 years. That was a huge cost. And not that we're doing that, obviously they're still limiting it based on certain districts that qualify, but there is a price to doing that. Nothing's free. You gotta remember that. It's all paid by someone.
But the 75, okay, so MPS has gotten free lunch for years and years because over 75% of their student population was receiving free or reduced lunch, correct?
There is a point where basically I think you have to go in CEP if, again, that's the direct cert number is high enough.
Okay.
I don't know the percentage, but you're probably somewhere.
It was 75% if I'm not mistaken, and we're at 65?
No. You have to remember, direct cert, it's based on the direct cert number, which is 50%. It's not about applications, so the applications don't count. So they have enough students that are qualifying through SNAP or some other state program where they are already automatically determined to be, qualify as economically disadvantaged. We're at 50%.
Well, I don't think that the food amount is going to, I think there are some other ways where we can save that 30 trillion that doesn't have to come from low income and middle income. Totally, that's my opinion.
Oh, but
So-
again, you do, I don't want to, this is why I'm letting you guys make that decision. I'm just saying that if you qualify, you get free food. That does happen automatic already. So it's not, you're talking about now the folks that don't qualify, and maybe some are on the cusp and you can argue what affordable is, but it's $2.50 for lunch and it's $3. I mean, I pay for it. I actually started eating lunch here and I'm paying $4. And the adult meal price is $4.25, I think. A great deal for, for a decent lunch.
And I paid for it, and I know that there were times when I was like, ooh, let me see how much money I got in my account, so whereas I'm supposed to be able to pay for it, I know for myself as a single person, it was a struggle to kind of come up with that money. I don't know what our population of single parents is, I'm not even trying to count anybody's money. But I do like you say, the opportunity to be able to provide what we can to support our parents, our community, and feed the folks, so I understand that there is a cost, but we can figure out some other ways to do things. And if we lose that money, just like we did with some of our other programming, for after school programs or whatever, we figured out other ways to kind of finagle, or we got sponsors. So I like the opportunity for us to be able to get the CEP for all of the students, so that it's not something that the parents have to, because it's like, okay, let me go into this thing and let me go in here and try to make sure that I add money. It's a hassle. So I would like to see less of a struggle for the parents, and at least me, I'm done now, but yeah, I would like to see that the CEP added. That's just my opinion.
And I would say that if we were to decide to do this, that we are very clear with families that this is a temporary program
Possibly.
that's based upon federal funding and it's subject to change at any point in time. And just to be clear about that, and if they get mad when it changed, then, well, you just got mad because we told you.
Yeah. You could go to your president.
Well, that's why, I wanted to give you some time, because there's a lot of data and a lot of information. So I just wanted to give you some time to, think about it. If you had additional questions, I can certainly reach out to DPI and just verify whether or not you can leave the program early, just because you did ask about that, just so you do know. If there's any other questions that pop up or any other thoughts, feel free to reach out. I will either ask DPI or ask Paul. He knows the answer to that. And then, like I said, in a couple of weeks, you can make that final determination and then move forward for the 25-26 school year.
Hey, do we have any of our other suburban partners? Here it is, participating school piece. Wanted to see who all else is around here is actually involved in the program as well, too.
Just the two I mentioned.
Suburban school.
Well, it's West Milwaukee and Cudahy.
Yeah.
West.
West Dallas.
West Dallas.
Grafton as well.
No, I think.
Oh, I don't see Grafton.
Like I said, it's big cities primarily, it's rural communities. Both areas obviously would have generally increased, or have the tendency to have increased, numbers of poverty.
Okay.
So yeah, the big five cities are the ones, and like I said, there's a lot of smaller communities. So in the Milwaukee area, those were the two that I saw.
All right, so this will be something we'll bring back up at the next board meeting.
Yeah, quite a few,
Still,
charter.
charter schools, it seems like the
Yeah.
majority of them are all charter schools in Milwaukee area.
Yeah, and in Milwaukee, same population as MPS.
Yeah.
408-8718, see there? Right.
So again, if there's any questions that pop up between now and then, please reach out and let me know, and I'll be happy to try to get the information in advance of your vote.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next item. This discussion about this intergovernmental agreement with Waukesha County for
Yeah.
election services.
I think I hope my executive summary was pretty clear. We do, we are sometimes challenged by recouping funds in an era where we're talking about deficit budgets and looking for money in every possible place. It would seem to be that if we have a more proactive way to get some of those funds, we can try to do that. This is a service being used by several districts. I've talked to people that are using it. It seems to be going very well for them. This is, again, this is an intergovernmental agreement. It's just one of the things that we have that we just do. And there's no cost to us if we don't ever use the service. You know, we can always renew or cancel it by time. Basically what happens is if we do submit a debt through to them for this service, then they start trying to initiate collections, and then they would theoretically own the right to that, you know, debt. So we can't like take it off the list and remove it. We have to go through them to do it. And they have more unique opportunities as a governmental entity to get access to these sorts of funds, as opposed to just a third-party administrator that might, a third-party firm that might just make calls and, you know, use their own methodology. And Waukesha has been doing this for years with a number of different school districts and a number of different municipalities. So I just thought it'd be nice. It is really hard as a business office. I mean, you can try to make calls, you can try to ask, and sometimes we get responses, sometimes it's positive, sometimes we just get ignored. And I'd like to at least give this a shot for the district to try to recoup some of the funds.
How much money are we looking to recoup from staff?
I got a couple people on my list that I want to try to hit right off the bat, and then after that, we'll see. It's about $10,000. I'd like to try to get a hold of over time. I don't know if it'll be immediate, but it'll be over time. And then now they do also, you can have this shift and go into the, you know, I'm focusing on staff because they work for us, they signed an agreement, they, you know, have not necessarily followed through on that part of it. But you could also use this to go into student fees and other things if we felt it was a thing that we needed to do. We do have, again, as we run into this every time around graduation, there are a number of families that have some significant fees. And again, fees are waived for those who qualify. These are folks that otherwise at least don't have the documentation to prove economically that they're economically disadvantaged. So over time, they've either preferred service or through school fees or whatever the case would be, have significant arrears. And it would be one way to collect if that's the board's direction. But I would focus on staff to start and see how effective it is, and then a determination can be made down the road.
What is the estimate for the number of fees owed by families this year?
I don't have that number,
Estimate.
but it's not insignificant. Again, what we have done historically is that if a sibling is in, so we try to, if a sibling's in the district, you know, and someone graduates, we try to recoup what the senior owes, but provide some grace to the family. Some of that money, food service is a family account, so some of the money is, you know, generally being charged because the younger students are also purchasing things. So we try to do that. Obviously, if you leave in the middle of a school year, our chances of getting funds back from you are slim. And so I'm sure there are some of the debt we'll have to write off at some point. Some we may be able to collect. There are limits to how far back we can go. You know, and we can certainly look at, you know, thresholds of what it is. If you need a report at some point, I'll probably let Mr. Paul run that data for you at some point, but
Mostly food though.
it's probably mostly food, but sometimes there are, I would argue that maybe technology side, if there's damaged, you know, equipment, laptops and things can be several $100s. Fees generally, I mean, hopefully you get them to pay after a year or two if that's the case. But again, it's not insignificant as a total amount. And again, some of it may be, you know, well past the time of actually collecting anything, but that would be something that if we feel like the service is worthwhile to,
So right now, we did it, it's free, it's a free service, and then whatever they collect, they get, was it 28%?
28%.
They get 28%. So at that same token, I mean, if they get 28%, I mean, we weren't getting anything initially, so we're getting some of it back, and it doesn't cost us any, if they don't collect.
right,
You don't pay.
we don't pay anything.
So to me, it almost seems like a no-brainer.
The one thing you can do as a board, has to go through the resolution that you guys decide on, is you can opt to pass the 28% onto the debtor. So that's a decision, you know, whether you want to do it and then may pay the difference. Whether you, and you can change that at any point in time. So if you want to just try this out and see what happens, see if we start, you know, able to
Some
generate
revenue, get back.
revenue.
Yeah.
You can talk about that. Obviously, that would be an incentive you know, as people leave the district, say, well, you can either pay me now this amount, or if I have to send this to collection, it's gonna be this plus 28%.
It takes us out of the loop or whatever, having to trying to chase people down for the liquidated damages.
I like that it says that if no money is collected, then there's no fees. I do like that. But I am concerned, what do our policies and procedures say now? So that means we'll have to change our policies and procedures as well.
No, I mean, related to.
For what?
You know, just to indicate, you know, if you don't pay your fee, we will be going toward this company. I mean, just, you know, sometimes things that are clear in the policy and procedures, when they have it in writing and they've signed off on it or whatever, like you said, they may have signed off on the contract, but is it in the policies and procedures?
Liquidated damages, and the liquidated damages part, it's already there, that they already know when they sign a contract that they do, that liquidate, this is the dollar amount for the liquidated damages. And that is supposed to be upon receipt, right? And that's the reason why, when we do the motions, we say based on liquidated damages or whatever have you and stuff like that. So they have to agree that they're gonna pay the liquidated damages. Some school districts turn around and just pay liquidated damages for individuals and stuff because they want them that bad. Other people, if they go into a different field or whatever have you, that's something totally different, but that's not our,
We can't take it out of their last paycheck?
no,
No, we can't. So,
it's law.
And
So-
private,
well, no, when I have,
It's
well,
law.
what I have started to do, and so this year we haven't had issues this year because I am able to, for the teachers that have left us, I do make them in writing, give us permission to take the money out of their check. As long as they do that, that's fine.
Right.
But you can't do it without their permission. And that has to be explicit. So there's nothing you can put. They even question whether if you put it in the contract, it's like, so I just, to be safe, I just say, okay, if you want to pay the liquidated damages, just send me this email saying and it says I approve to take this money out on this date or blah, blah, blah. And then I have that, and that goes in with the record that that's what we collected from. But otherwise, we don't have that option to do a forcible collection. So that's where we can say, you know, again, if they leave and go to a different area, or if the other school district doesn't really care. I mean, I don't have a lot of legal, you know, I'm not gonna run around and chase and say, well, okay, school just hired them, but they didn't pay all their liquid. I mean, that's a challenge, but it is under contract. So we can, if we have all the evidence we need, and again, this doesn't require a judgment. So as long as I have a contract with an explanation of here's what they signed and did it, and I provide that as potential supporting documentation. If I tell Waukesha County, this person owes us $1,000, that's all they need, and they'll start going after.
But I have a question for you. So what are your steps before that process? Because most people, you know, you send them out 3 letters, you allow them to do a payment plan. So what is your process before we would send that off to?
Right, I mean, what I do now is when a teacher that is, or when anyone who has potential liquidated damages resigns, I will send them an invoice just saying like, here's the amount you owe based on the day that you resigned or whatever. And, you know, we do say you're not cleared until you sign. I do ask them to try to address it before the board meeting where their name is called. If they don't, you know, then that's when you do the pending piece. I will reach out multiple times. Like I said, lately, they've been more apt to do the final paycheck pullout, especially for teachers. The way that they're paid, that last paycheck is usually a big one. Whenever we do pay them out, so it's easier for them to accept that. For administrators, it doesn't change their paycheck really, that would just end. So that one isn't, that might be a little harder sometimes. But I do give them a chance. I also give them a chance to do some payment plan if we can come to some kind of term. But I'll be honest, I won't name names, but I've had people that you would think would be able to pay that offer like $50 a month, you know, and it could take me like 3 years to get the money back. And that seems ridiculous. So this would be a difference. And but I guess as long as it's collection, if I know if Waukesha County does it and that's the deal, I know we're gonna get it. You know, that's gonna happen every pay period or whatever the case may be. And I have to think about it. When they offer it to me, I have to like hound to make sure that it happens. And there's just no time to do that effectively.
Okay, did I miss the answer to your question?
Yeah, so we do multiple reach out. They get an invoice right off the bat. And then I reach out and have conversations and try to resolve it. And oftentimes we get to the point where they just take it out of the check. Or we sit down and try to do some kind of plan, but sometimes I get ignored too, so.
So it's just kind of what's tried though. It's not actually a process that's documented.
No, well, I mean, I guess in the sense of we do the invoice, that gets sent to them immediately. So that's a statement with the letter explaining exactly what it is. how much they owe, what the time frame is. And then if I don't hear from them over a period of time, then I reach out again. It depends on, some people leave with plenty of notice and some people, and they're still here and I can work with them. Some people are gone. And then it's like, I'm calling, I'm emailing, I've sent registered mail before. And when it gets ignored at a certain point, then we just run out.
So I get that that's what you do. But is it documented anywhere? As far as what the steps are that we take?
Policies and procedures.
No, I can certainly, that's just been what we have done, but I can certainly.
Probably, might be,
Verify.
Kev, is just be like this, but for those individuals that turn around and do it right then and there, okay, fine. Then you could almost have a thing in there to be like, well, in 30 days, you have 30 days.
That's what the invoice says.
Okay, so the invoice, already says within 30 days, right? So then I think we need to have something that happens after the 30 days or whatever, but now would this be where this company would come in and where we would say after 30 days, you're not dealing with us, you'll deal with Waukesha County for liquid about whatever your fee thing is.
And I would argue that now, like, having this set up, that would be the step after, when, if there's no contact or anything and we don't.
In that 30 days.
It would be saying, okay, we are now turning this over to Waukesha County Collections, and if that doesn't instill some fear, like, wait a minute, here it is. Then that's.
I mean, are we
hopefully
talking 1,000, 2,000, 3,000?
Sometime.
Yeah, so like that would be like more like 30, 60, at least 90 days. Like I gotta pay you $3,000. You want me to go to my piggy bank and grab 3,000 for you? Like, let's.
It's costing us when they turn around and leave us or whatever. So we gotta turn around and pay to hire people and go through all the rest of this different stuff. So
That's
Yeah,
valid,
that's what-
but whatever we're doing, let's just be clear on what that is. And
that's what I'm saying.
if
So
your invoice for your liquidated, or even when I resign, okay, you have liquidated damages. We ask for your payment. In 30 days, you receive an invoice, in 60 days, it goes to collect, like, all of that. Just
right, that's
write
it. That's what I just said. Yeah.
I can include,
Tell me.
we didn't have the collections answer, but.
All right, now if we approve this, then it goes from there.
If they come through, and if they come through and do, well, part of it is I guess if you're trying to push it before they are released by the board, because again, once they get released by the board, it's a little tougher. But what I would say is that I have had people who have done payment plans, and when they do that, we do it in writing.
Yeah, they do it before the 30 days and they're like.
You owe me this, and here's the terms,
That's
and
not the
they.
people we're worried about. We're worried about the folks where I think there has been attempt 1, attempt 2, and you got nothing.
Right.
And I would probably even go as far as saying is that you probably got some folks who are sitting on your books that you've been trying to collect for about 3-4 years, right? Would they be also those folks that we would consider referring their names to the collection services as well?
I have a list of, I know who
Yes.
has and who hasn't paid, so.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, so I would certainly, I have a couple people that I want to go through first that I think are more present, are more important.
Right,
And then
Priority.
kind of review
Yeah.
prioritize, and then we'll go through and figure out what the next step. But I agree, I can certainly make sure that it's more clear, and again, if we're adding this as a next step, I can add it to the invoice, the letter to say that.
After
Failure
30 days
or make
or
arrangements.
arrangements.
Right, we say make arrangements, which is
Yeah.
always, I always try to say, if you can make arrangements before the board meeting, then I will recommend to the board that they release you, but without qualification. And some do, and some don't. Again, with teachers, most teachers, because if they're on the 24 pay schedule, they are deferring pay to the summer. And so most of them, unless you leave right at the beginning of the year, you have a considerable amount of money that's deferred, that's going to come. So that last paycheck, maybe $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. And so pulling $2,000 out at that point is not that much of a financial hardship, because it's less of what you take home. Again, with administrators and that, where they're paid as you go, like as an example, my last paycheck will be June 30th in the district. And it'll be the same check I've gotten every pay period throughout this year, because I'm just paid as I go. I don't build up like teachers do, since they work less days but deferred over a longer period of time. So from a teaching standpoint, I think that's helped. Administrators, though, it can still be a challenge, because when they leave, and they can leave abruptly.
So any other questions in my opinion, like as long as we put the other stuff in there, Kevin, like, you know, within that 30 days or whatever, if they make arrangements or they pay it, they agree to do that, then fine. And then after that, I will put in that language. Well, after 30 days, then your thing without arrangements or whatever will be referred over to Waukesha County for collections.
That'd be great. I can do that. I'll share that with you.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah, whatever we do, that's fine. I'm just saying have it documented.
I just wanted to confirm that, if you're approving this, are you approving this, do you want to, tack on the 28% or not at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure you have some
Yeah.
policies and procedures.
Yep, so we're fine.
So, no, I mean, no,
In the
are you gonna,
adding
you wanna add the 28% to it, so whatever the penalty, or whatever the, if it's a $2,000 liquidated damages, it will be $2,000.
400 plus what it would be like 2480 or some whatever. Yeah, we need to make them pay for that 28%, not us.
Okay, can you?
See, if they turn around and handle their business or just made arrangements, see, and that's the part that I have problems with individuals. They know they owe. Just make arrangements. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Make the arrangement. Don't just walk away and just be like, oh, well,
Make
whatever.
arrangements and then stick to the.
Yeah, stick to the arrangement. You know, and if you don't stick to the arrangement, well, you know, this is what.
You're gonna pay that extra 28.
You gonna pay that, because why should we have to pay the 28%? So.
Can you just make sure in the motion then that you add the part about including passing the 28%
Include.
charge to the debtor?
Okay,
Just to be
you got
clear.
that, Ms. Macon?
Yes, sir.
Including the 28% to the
To the debtor,
charge to the debtor.
and then I will let Waukesha County know that's how it would handle.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, would someone like to make a motion?
I would. Yes, sir. Dr. Beto, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 66.0301 intergovernmental agreement with Waukesha County for collection services, to include a 28%,
Charge to this debtor.
charge to the debtor as presented.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Macon. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
second.
All right, I can go Ms. Robinson. All right, any other discussion? Here to see none, all in favor will raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any see none, motion carries 6-0. All right, so Kevin, make sure that you get that other verbiage in there. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And Mr. Paul, you make sure that you get ready to implement.
He'll get the glory.
You'll get the money part.
Yeah, so at that point, it just becomes we're enforcing what was provided to you and not. We coming out, no.
We already know, there it is.
It's
like any other bill.
You signed it, and that's, yes.
All right, there you go. All right, so let's go on to our next item is our budget update. I didn't see anything in board docs or
That's
whatever.
right, because everything else took too long to do. So I have been working to adjust some things, but I don't have anything incredibly informative to share with you tonight. I will be going through the rest of it and I'll get you a draft as soon as you'll see it, because you'll see with the other funds in there as well for approval in 2 weeks. The one thing I will say that has and obviously the state is still working through the budget. I did hear this morning some unfortunate news that it sounded like from the discussions at the legislature that they may not be adding additional funding to special education, and they might only be adding it to high cost special education, which is a challenging piece. You had heard 33%, I think was kind of the value that we were at for this year. It actually turned out, because we got our final payment on Monday, and it turned out it was under 31%. So I had budgeted like $1,030,000 in the budget for special education categorical aid. It actually came in at like 980 something this year. So we did not get the allotment that we did. I'm not gonna try to plan any additional. It's a no-brainer to me that they can't, why they can't slide it up to 35, 40, or I know they're trying 60 and 90, but for whatever reason, that's not the discussion at this point. The high cost aid is not used by a lot of districts, and it's the caveat of you got to pay the first 30, and then the rest of it is provided as aid the following year. So if you have, as an example, and Mr. Paul and I were having this conversation this evening because we have a couple of very high cost students right now in special education, and I have to decide between either getting it all paid for out of IDEA right now, or not claiming it and then trying to do high cost special education aid a year later, but then I have to pay for it this year and then I get some money next year. And you don't even know exactly how much you get because those are still kind of, there's a pot of money and it all depends on how many districts take advantage. So, it's not something that most districts use. I would love to have seen some more money in special ed. Maybe that still changes before the final budget's approved, but that was the news I saw through one of our email blasts this morning, that it does not look like that is a big change. So that will impact, what we do on the special education side.
Okay, you say you don't understand why this slide would make a difference. It doesn't make a difference because they're not doing it for the kids. There's other motives.
Well, like, and I do understand, I mean, agree or disagree with the philosophy that, there is an effort to try to maintain property taxes or keep property taxes under control. But the reality is that you add 325 to the revenue limit, you are increasing property taxes. You put in an additional 10 or 15% into special education, you are minimizing or reducing the transfer that most districts are taking from their operating budget and putting into special education, which frees that money up for other things in their operating budget, and it doesn't impact taxes. So like, that's like the biggest no-brainer of like giving more money to schools, where it doesn't impact the property tax levy, unlike the 325.
But I think that goes to what you're saying, it doesn't make sense, it's not child centered.
Right, it's not
at all.
child-centered.
Okay, now, in the meeting, I listened to it this morning and there's a sense of urgency where they want each one of the board members to contact the Joint Finance Committee. There's if you get WASB or School Administration, Administrators Alliance or SWSA. I submitted that paperwork and I submitted it so that it said to the legislators to say, okay, we want to be able to get that money. However, there were 3 questions that were posed. It says, does your district submit reimbursement for high-cost special education presently that exceeds that 30,000? And then it says, so what would it look like for a 40% sum sufficient high-cost special education reimbursement mean for our district, and what would a 60%? So there were 3 questions that were posed. And I guess the thing is that they basically, there's a sense of urgency where they want everybody, all of the board members, to at least chime in by the 12th, which is Thursday. And I think the next thing is sitting down and looking at how we think that's going to help. Now, the question that I have, like you say, is not student-centered, in my opinion. And what is the cost of getting this money? Are some of the kids gonna be railroaded and pushed into that so that we can get more money? Because sometimes it's like, okay, this is where the money drops, and we have kids here that might be borderline, I think we'll just push them over there. That's my fear with this whole contingency of high level sped. Who came up with this whole thing with high level and low level? And I know that they're trying to generate money, and that's been one of the things that has kind of come through, collectively from some of the organizations that said, okay, if we can get some money, let's let it be toward this, or let's be. I just have an issue with it, but I do understand that there's going to be a 33.3%, is it, Kevin? 33%?
Well, that's what they said last year though, and what do you mean, in the high cost?
It's reimbursement.
They're predicting the special education categorically at 33%, but they said that last year and it's at 30.
Right, they said 33.3%, so they want to get it up to as high as 60%, right? So I don't know if this is something that we're supposed to send out, but definitely it's just a little short, they kind of have a template there, and all you have to do is put your name in it and send it off, and it's supposed to go, so that it's collectively, we're all getting it. So it's in 3 different places: WASB, SWSA, School Administrator Alliance. So it's on your webpage that you guys have it. So that was really, oh, another thing that I wanted to mention that kind of talks about that, they're going to increase the cost for our participation in SWSA also. And I think you had just gotten off, Dr.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, those were the things that were kind of interesting. to me. Were you still on at that time when they were talking about?
I was on SWSA, but there was an email that went out that kind of highlighted that. Piece of it, that it was going to high cost state for whatever reason, so. I had thought that it was I thought that there was a lot of momentum going into increasing special education, but in general, but. Not yet. So back to the budget, I will update you with additional information. We'll have some other things figured out. We'll have a transportation number ready to go and some of the other insurance pieces will be figured out. It still will be preliminary and Mr. Paul will carry you the rest of the way to October and the grand finish. Tax levy time.
Okay, cool. Perfect. All right, let's go on to our next item, summer school updates, Dr. Glass.
Good evening, President Beadle and the board. Today I'll talk to you a little bit about summer school 2025. The program will run June 6th through July 18th. The administrators who will be leading our summer school program as follows, Ms. Morgan Conyers for Brown Deer Elementary School, Ms. Hirschman, Middle School, and Mr. Woods for high school. Communication efforts will be collaboratively shared by the summer school principals as well as Ms. Brennan Statter, District Communications Coordinator. The offerings will be as follows. For Brown Deer Elementary and Middle School, the focus will be on standard supported reading and math, as well as enrichment classes. High school, per usual, will focus on credit recovery. Our current enrollment for summer school is 214. This number does exclude high school as their registration doesn't open until tomorrow, June 6th. Meals will be prepared, breakfast and lunch, daily for our students as well as community members who are 18 and under. Any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Glass, so the ones that have that have partial applications completed, do they have, what's the time frame that they have to get that application completely filled out before summer school starts? Because it actually starts next week, so.
Correct. The summer school application is closed, but I just put those numbers there to let you know what the stats were. They did get email blasts. The administrators did do phone calls, they did flyers, they worked through Skyward to close these out. However, they were left in that standing.
So if they don't get them done, they're not gonna probably, right?
Probably already done.
Correct.
Yeah. So basically the window's already closed, so those 34 in elementary school, they can no longer get the service.
Correct, unless someone
they get the
may
paper.
make a decision to do otherwise.
All right.
Ms. Conyers was enrolling some kids after I showed her how to do that today.
Okay.
So we do have an updated list as of the end of the day today.
Okay,
And these numbers are from Friday, so.
okay, yeah, but a lot of stuff changed for Friday today. Okay,
These numbers are higher. That reported out to the
Yeah.
village board.
that's what I see now, and I was like, okay, yeah.
So, I know we don't have the enrollment hasn't opened for the high school. Is there an estimate?
No, I mean, there's, teachers are still closing grades, they're still grading,
Okay.
so,
Because remember today was the last day.
yes.
Of the exams actually.
And this is when Kelly does her double time here, so this is counting on this big season, so they had some ideas as to who was on that list, you know, and reaching out, and those that had failed first semester, like they're aware of those pieces, but
Okay.
yeah, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Glass and summer school? All right, we're looking forward to them doing it and those students that really, really need it. I hope they're not part of that 34 or whatever for the elementary school and stuff, because we know that one of the things that we were really getting ready to focus on is also part of our strategic plan, and one of our pillars is to ensure that those students that are in our elementary school really get that foundation for those basics for reading and math, because we know if they're able to do that, then technically they should be, as they continue to go on, they should do a lot better or whatever have you. And then to your point from something that you had said before, and I think we all know, our third graders is always an issue. And it's always been an issue. And making sure that, you know what, that we're able to give them that support that's needed or whatever, because that's the only way we're gonna be able to have a district that exceeds expectations all the way through. We have to start with our younger kids and get them on that path moving forward and stuff. So, all right, sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, summer learning opportunities update.
So in addition to our summer learning opportunities for our students, we are offering summer support professional learning for our teachers. We have curriculum planning and design, standard seduction, and vertical alignment. We have a focus on writing in the springboard curriculum that will be for middle school and high school. And then we also have linking assessments to instruction with structured literacy approach. And that class is specifically for Tier 3 students with our middle school intervention teacher. The rest of this professional development is led by the principal.
Now, you also are going to Act 20 class, right? You kind of mentioned that to me
Yes, that's a
before.
good segue. And so the last part of our opportunities will be for our administrators, specifically for Brown Deer Elementary. So the principals, the assistant principals, as well as the district reading specialist, director of pupil services, and myself, we will be attending the 8-hour Act 20 training on the 17th and the 18th of June.
It's the what of June?
June 17th and June 18th from 8 to 12. And that'll be led by CISA 1.
Sounds good. Any other questions, more questions for Dr. Glass? In this professional development? Okay, all right, let's go on to our next item, approval of the WASB annual dues. All right, Dr. Condon.
Yeah, good evening, board. This evening, we seek your approval to pay the invoice regarding the membership subscription agreement for the Wisconsin Association of School Board, or WASB, in the amount of $6,578.
It's a 3% increase, and for all intents and purposes, you think about everything that we get, all of the services and resources that we get through WASB, it's pretty much a no-brainer. And everything and stuff.
For that
And
increase of $500, yeah.
yeah, it was 3%, so yeah.
It was only 192.
It's only 3%.
Yeah, 3%.
So, yeah, so it's pretty much a no-brainer, like I said before, with all of the resources that we get from WASB, you know, all of the trainings, all of the everything, all of the support, stuff like that. So,
Because I asked them specifically if it was okay for
what's that?
me
I'm
to,
so sorry.
the SWSA.
Uh-huh.
I asked them, because they did a vote today
Mhm.
for all of the districts to say that they would take, they would accept that increase of $500 per district.
It's not SWSA.
That's not SWSA, that's WSA, that's not, yeah, this is WASB, this is different. Yeah, that's different, yeah, that's a whole different one.
And Director Macon, that bill just hasn't come in just yet. We're
Yeah,
waiting for
it's
it to
coming.
come in.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Well, with that being said, anybody have any questions in relationship to WASB? It's pretty much no brainer. Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the 25-26 Wisconsin Association of School Boards Membership Subscription Agreement as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Megan. Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. Now let's go on to this other part of our agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, a motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Farrington. Motion is made and seconded. All in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, I'll declare this meeting adjourned at 7:36 p.m. Everyone, enjoy the remainder of your evening. It's a beautiful evening tonight. We welcome Mr. Paul as our new business manager, as we will continue to see this gentleman for at least 2 years now, right? And we'll turn around and do that. And all right, everyone, enjoy the evening. Good night.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yep, 7:36.
I got